Hey, welcome back to MobilityWOD. Talking today about a variation of one of our favorite mobilizations, which is putting that shoulder to the back of the socket. And one of the things that happens is that as I miss internal rotation or miss range, the way my shoulder adjusts for that is that the capsule screws forward, the shoulder screws forward, and I lose capsule range. So what ends up happening is instead of having the joint being able to roll, slide, and glide in position and then tighten up, I sort of screw out of position, and then that's how I compensate. But that doesn't leave me a lot of slack for rotation. That's the problem. I need to have all of that capsule or shoulder in the back of the socket so that I can use that slack to create torsion forces and stability. If I have to compensate for position, then that shoulder comes out. There's not a lot of slack left over. So as my shoulder comes, if I'm missing rotation, for example, my shoulder will screw forward, compensate, and then I'm weak in those positions. So one of our first fixes is to get that shoulder to the back of the socket. One of the easiest tests for this is, can you get your shoulders to the back of the ground, just like you were floor pressing. So if I was floor pressing here and I set the shoulder, I'm only going to be able to create torque enough if I can literally get that on the ground. What you'll see is that, maybe if I'm missing thoracic extension, I'll be rounded, I can't get my shoulder back. If I lay down, my scapula's in a bad position, or I'm kind of superficial in the socket, that shoulder's not going to be on the ground. You can stick your hand or foot underneath someone here. This is a real problem. So one of the reasons we like a lot of floor pressing in our athletes is it teaches control in the back of the socket. So here's what we're going to do about being able to set that. Traditionally, we just call this kind of posterior capsule mode. Roop's got a little distraction force, and he's got the kettlebell going down. Donnie Thompson has figured out that he likes this. He's got a distraction force, and then he uses a band that goes across, and then he pushes into the band. The kettlebell works fine. We're just getting some approximation to the back of the socket and then creating a little extra rotation force. So this is the first mode, and you've seen this before, but Roop's come up with a new variation. Sometimes that's a tricky setup, certainly. So here's what's going to happen. Talk us through it, Roop.
Yep, so what I found is that I really couldn't feel like getting to the back of the socket and doing it at home. I couldn't find anywhere to put the band. So what I was able to do is using this bar. Everyone's seen this kind of classic external rotation torquing with the position of the PVC pipe, but
the shoulder screws forward. So you're like, hey, it's like sleeper stretch. Like, that's an awesome stretch there. Negative. Needs to be back.
So what I decided to do is find a way to use the band to loop it around my body, sit on top of that band and get into that same position. And now I can create that torque and then come across the other side with the band.
So the band is driving, should be driving down-ish into the back. So we're trying to get an approximation force in the back of the socket. It's tightening up from the other side.
And now I tighten up the other side with the band. You can create as much tension on this as you want. You can use your opposite knee to create a little bit more torque through external rotation. And now I just kind of sit here and relax into it, and you feel the shoulders sitting back and down through the band.
We talked to Super Friend pushing to the back of the shoulder. The key here is that Roop's in charge of everything. I'm not oscillating, I'm not doing anything. You need to be able to fix yourself as often as possible. So getting some approximation to the back of the shoulder, but adding the external rotation is where this is about. We talk about trying to prioritize that rotational capacity. You can probably miss some flexion, you can miss some extension. You need your rotation to adjust for position and stability. And then are you oscillating there? What are you doing?
I'm just kind of keeping the shoulder back. I'm using my knee to kind of oscillate into external rotation a little more as I feel like the shoulder's sitting back and down.
I'm not going to lie, what does your wife think about this?
She thinks I need to get another career because it's getting a little out of control.
That's the dream. That's the dream. MobilityWOD, we'll see you guys tomorrow.